It's Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. This is the Board of Public Works of the City of Franklin meeting. We'll do a quick roll call. Myself, Chairman Webster, Alderman Hassan. Here. Commissioner Woznicki. Here. Commissioner Porter. Here. Commissioner Specht. Here. Commissioner Johnson. Here. City Engineer Morrow.
Here.
Assistant City Engineer Beinlich. Here. And Highway Superintendent Schlater is here. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll do the reading and approval of the minutes of the November 14th meeting. Actually, I have not read this, so I don't have any comments to make. I don't know if other people have looked at it or not.
I'll second. Oh, that's okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented from Commissioner Porter and seconded by Alderman Hassan. All of those in favor of that motion, aye.
Aye.
Any negatives?
I'm going to abstain.
Thank you, Commissioner Specht. Then that motion will pass. And then we'll move on to the public comment period. Now, Officer Patek?
Paddock.
Paddock, thank you, is here. We had comments last month and asked for information on speed enforcement on Putes Road.
This is public comment.
And so we're going to do that at the public comment period since it wasn't on the agenda for tonight. So we're going to treat this as public comment, and if you wish to ask questions back and forth, it'll be recorded, but we can't take any action tonight, but we'll get the information to bring back the topic next month. Okay? Glenn, do you want to reframe that comment for us from last month? And
So we had a gentleman here last month, lives on Putes Road, had some issues with just the general condition of speeders and so forth, and initially asked for traffic calming measures. So, but it was apparent during the discussion that he has no request for any, I want to say, physical infrastructure as far as basically ones that we could look at. I did look a little bit at driveway. I didn't really see a good place to put a driveway. We talked about possibly putting a driveway somewhere out there. But some of the other comments was it sounded like it was mostly just an enforcement issue. So, but in response to that, we've asked the police department to be, yes.
So, yeah, a specific, I was going to mention.
So, yeah,
it was specific to the eastern edge,
Kayla's
edge,
Playground?
like 35th Street over by the.
So between 35th and 43rd, in that, specifically the playground at Kayla's, between there and 43rd, I guess, is Huntington Ridge or something.
Running Park Drive.
Yeah. So I do know the police went out and did some investigative work. They did some traffic counts and so forth, and I asked the police department to send someone to chat about that conversation.
This thing on?
Yes.
All right. All right, good evening. My name is Sean Paddock. I'm a police sergeant with the City of Franklin, currently assigned to the late shift, but I oversee our traffic enforcement unit. Just to kind of give you an idea of what that entails, it's a collateral duty with the police department. We don't have the personnel of a full-time traffic unit, but we do have officers that are designated as traffic officers. So if they are working, we have the staffing. They're solely assigned to traffic. We have a database within our computer system. Any traffic complaints that come in, our dispatch center takes it. I vet them, and then I input them into a computer system where any officer can pull them up on the street, We're like, okay, we need to focus on this area at these times, and they go and they go ahead and do that. If we don't have a traffic officer working, basically the beat officer that's assigned to that beat will handle that, calls permitting. We do have signs, and I know that they were discussed last month a little bit, but we have a number of traffic signs that we can post, and they can do a number of things. They can give immediate feedback where essentially they'll display the vehicle's speed as it passes. If you ever go down Drexel Avenue going westbound from 60th Street, you'll see we've erected one permanently there that's constantly giving feedback. We can also have it in what's called a capture mode, where essentially all it's doing is taking data, where it's not going to reflect the speed on the sign. It's just constantly getting data, the number of vehicles that pass through and the speeds that are traveling at. So on November 7th to November 13th, we placed one of our signs in the 3600 block of Putes for eastbound traffic. So, because essentially traffic that's going westbound, they have a stop sign at 35th. For them to speed, they're really going to have to hammer on the accelerator once they get to the intersection. So a lot of the violations come from eastbound traffic coming from 51st Street and so on. So we had that placed for a week. I can discuss some of the data that we got. The minimum speed we had was 10 miles an hour. The maximum speed we had was 66. That was on one occurrence. There are some violations, but sometimes those can be emergency vehicles going through the street as well. Generally speaking, the average speed is 35.69 miles per hour. 85th percentile speed is essentially the higher end speed. The average there was about 40 miles an hour. It's an issue there, but there's speeding issues throughout the city. And as far as any type of calming measures, as far as erecting a driveway, I don't think that's necessary. For us to do enforcement there's enough adequate spaces where we can position our squads to be out of sight, capture speed, and go ahead and make a traffic stop if needed. With that road being as narrow as it is now anyway, I know the gentleman that had come in and made this complaint. For safety, we're not going to stop cars right there where it's that 2 lanes. It's not a safe place for us to effect a traffic stop. So a lot of times it's either going to be west, past 51st Street, or east by like Berkshire Circle or something like that, or south or north on 35th Street, just because it's a safer area. There's a shoulder that we can actually pull off on. So if anyone has any, not only that, but I can tell you about the enforcement actions that we have taken really quick. So we had a complaint in the system from a gentleman that lives at 4038 West Putes. He made a complaint April 24th of this year. So we've had essentially traffic watches there since April 24th of this year. And what we've done since then, so on 36 occasions, we've had officers go out in position and do traffic enforcement on that stretch of road right there. So 36 occasions for a total of 16 hours and 70.75. So there was an officer there for 16 hours, 0.75. We made 25 traffic stops, issued 14 citations, and issued 11 warnings. So is there an issue there? I think there's always going to be people at speed. Whether you adjust the speed limits, there's always going to be people that speed. But I think as far as any calming measures that are needed, I don't think there's anything that's needed other than us just continuing doing traffic enforcement in that area. So it's kind of a long dissertation, but if anyone has any questions, I'll be certainly happy to answer any of those.
I will take the opportunity. I know there's a few new folks on the board. 85th percentile is a traffic term we use. So, and the reports generally spit out the 85th percentile. The idea is that people will drive what feels comfortable, and studies have shown if you look at it's not the half, it's not the maximum. It's because those are the people that are probably driving faster than they really should. But the 85th percentile is what most people would feel comfortable driving. So that's generally what the number we look at. So I believe you said the 85th percentile was like 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, it was 40.55.
So most people are driving 40 miles an hour. Understand that that's probably within, that's probably about the maximum, but 10 miles above is what someone would tend to drive. So if we were just using a traffic study to quantify a speed limit, we could actually raise the speed limit if we technically wanted to. We would not. Don't worry about that. But especially considering the situation where the road's skinny and other things, unless there's a school or something where you can talk about, a specific reason why you lower it below the 85th percentile, that's what you typically use to justify lowering the speeds. So, and we have talked in the past about designating park zones like you do school zones. Problem is when you start looking at that, then where do you stop? Because there's parks pretty much everywhere. It would spend a fortune in new signage trying to sign for all the park zones around all the parks. So historically, we've decided that unless there's something that's extremely weird going on, we're not going to designate any park zones in Franklin.
So, a couple of questions, then I'll go to you, okay, Becky? I appreciate you coming here tonight and helping us out. There's a couple of new members here that aren't aware, but most of us are aware of the 85th and the medians and all of those things. We don't try to. This is a citizen volunteer board, and we don't feel, or at least I as chairman don't feel that we should ask too much of our departments from the city to spend money and time. But so when we do ask for like enforcement in an area, does that go into your system that you were describing earlier and get called up? Because sometimes we do ask for enforcement in a particular area from this board. And so I was curious how, just from a logistics standpoint, how does that get put into your system so that your people are aware of an area that we deem is an area that needs some enforcement?
Sure. So I've been doing this for the last 3 years, and the majority of directed enforcement that I get is from citizens. Every once in a while, mostly from like the school district. So, first couple of weeks of school or whatnot, or we have a complaint, it comes in that way. I haven't seen anything specifically from this board coming across my desk. But yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so say in the past 3 years, there may have been twice, maybe 3 times where
we don't do it often because we don't want to, it's not our job to overload city staff with doing certain little things.
It typically go past Chief Olivia's desk, and Chief will, I'm sure, direct you.
But essentially, whatever comes my way, I'm able to put it into our computer system. And then, additionally, at roll call, so we have a roll call every shift at the beginning of the shift. That's, we pass along information, email, stuff like that. So it does get disseminated. But, I would stress that if there is a concern or whatnot, let us know. There's obviously hot spots within the city that we know about. You can look at an area and be like, all right, the amount of traffic coming through, crash data, stuff like that. We can do things.
In the future, if we do have enforcement requests that would come from this board, like you said, normally it probably goes to the chief, and then let him convey that information down to you, per se, and that's the appropriate channels for us to use.
Sure, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes.
And that's what I'm trying not to do at the same time.
And kind of getting into the weeds here, but so right now I work late shift, but January 1st, I'm transferring to second shift, which is the shift operating right now. So I'm almost wondering, going further in the future, if you would like me to come to these meetings, I'm more than happy to come to the meetings if need be, if there's any traffic things you want to discuss.
Well, normally we would, if we have a traffic issue that we want to discuss with the police department, we'll send a request for information. It normally comes back to us. And this is just a wonderful opportunity to actually speak with somebody. So I did. So I think it's great. Commissioner Specht, I think you had some particular questions here.
Yeah.
That was just my logistics question. I thought it was important.
I am a resident of Yorkshire Circle, and our neighborhood, I'm also on our neighborhood association. We do get a lot of complaints from the residents, especially those who have parents who try walking their kids over to Kayla's about the intersection of 35th and Yorkshire, how dangerous it is, and how frequently we're seeing accidents occurring there. Do you have any data with you in regards to that intersection?
The 3-5 imputes.
Yeah.
I don't have any specifically to 3-5 imputes right now, but I can certainly get that for you.
Because I know I've also experienced, along with my husband, walking through that and getting really close to getting hit.
Okay.
So it would be interesting to see if you have any data on
Just
that.
people blowing the stop sign there.
Yep, flying through. I found it kind of interesting that you said that people wouldn't take off from
I'm not saying that
going
they
west.
wouldn't. I'm not
And I
saying
was
they
about to
wouldn't.
say,
just
actually,
saying-
if they stopped.
If they right, no, for sure. But I can certainly. What I will do is, I'll research that data this week, and then I'll send that over to
That'd be wonderful.
Glenn,
Thank you.
and he'll can give it to you. Sure.
And if I may add to that, one of the questions that when we discussed this last month, because was in addition to vehicle issues, vehicle, whatever, also vehicle animal. Because I drove down that neighborhood and saw, the one Friday night I drove down it, I saw a deer right there at Kalis Park.
There's a lot of deer over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of deer all over, and that's another discussion. But because that's another question is how many of those types of incidents occur in that area too. That would be interesting to be aware of. So
One thing that we've also started doing is every month. We had a hard time this past year because we were down a number of officers at the beginning of the year. We're getting back up to staffing now, but one thing I like to do at least once a month is I like to get every traffic officer in. We'll flex our shift so we have the entire traffic unit working, and we'll identify a number of hot spots in the city, and we may have 5-6 squads dedicated just to that city, and we're able to get a lot of high visibility enforcement and stuff like that. So that's something that we've been doing for the last couple of years, and if there's any data that any of you folks want on that, we'll certainly be happy to pass it on to you as well.
okay. Well, I appreciate you coming in. Is there any other questions from any of the members of the board? Comments? Yeah, we can't act tonight because it's not on our thing, but we'll.
There's nothing to act on.
There's nothing to act upon. Okay, but I appreciate you coming in and talking to us.
Yep.
It is very helpful. I appreciate it,
appreciate it.
Officer.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we're going to move on to item 4A. Now, just thank you. It is 6:19 for closing public comment period. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to unfinished business. This is held over because there were members that weren't here last month, and I kind of sprung it on a lot of you that I would think that this is a good transition year for a new chairman because I would be likely not be here within one, possibly 2 years at the most. So I figured a good transition year would occur for the election for a new chairperson. So we held it off last month to give people time to think about it and to then come up with your comments. I don't know how the best to address this, but if there's comments from some members of the board about the chairman position, if someone's interested in taking that over, no hurt feelings from me. I'm fine with that, and just come forward and just speak your piece is what I'm going to say, and then we'll address it.
You do a good job.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm also trying to do what is best, to do what I think would be intelligent for the city, which is to have some transition time here.
Well, under comment, I do agree with you. strategy to take.
If it's something that people are not ready for, it is something that I would, for a short term manage. I think that the sooner we make a transition, the better off this board is going to be, though. I'm not getting much response out of anybody here.
John, you and I have kind of talked about it. If you're really serious about
I am.
stepping down,
I am.
I would be open to.
Okay.
And I likewise would be open to considering the position,
Okay.
I'm not dying to do it. I wouldn't feel bad if I wasn't, but I would step up if asked to do so.
Yeah. I just think that it's a good transition period, because I will be here for another year at least. I can't say much after that, but I would think that would be a smart approach. If someone nominated either of the two of you this evening, would you accept a nomination?
Well, yeah, I won't turn it down.
Okay.
So I.
All right. So then I'm going to go back to the members of the board. Anybody else on the board? We have two individuals, and I think both of them are quite capable of doing the task. If someone would like to nominate one of the two, and then we can have a vote, or if someone wants to nominate two, and we can, cast votes for the combination or whatever. Would one of you be interested in doing the chairperson and the other the board recorder?
I think you and I kind of discussed that.
I'll be frank with you. Taking minutes and recording things is not my strong suit, and I know that for a fact. I mean, I'm not I'll be frank with you. I never went to college. I never had to do that type of thing in my life, other than some stuff at union meetings, and that is clearly out of my wheelhouse.
Well, I've been kind of doing both functions
And
for
you've
the
been,
long
and you've
while.
been doing both, and I think in the transition that you're foreseeing, the recorder is likely going to have to be doing the note-taking like you've currently been doing. You've been doing both things, and the other person would be the running the meeting as you're currently doing.
Okay. So if you had a preference, you would rather be the chairperson, so you would not have to deal with the taking of the notes and doing that type of thing. And I know Becky always brings, I say Becca because that's my daughter-in-law's name. I
I'm
apologize.
also Becca.
And I know she brings in her computer like I do, so she can handle the notes.
I mean, if you're looking
So-
to see who would fit in what position better, that would probably be
Okay.
the way of looking at. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so with the comments from the two of them, then I would be asking for a nomination for a chairperson for the board at this time.
So that's going to be
For who?
John.
Okay, so the nomination, let's start first, for the chairperson would be Becky Specht, correct?
I thought she
That's-
was going to be the recorder.
Oh, I had them backwards. Okay, for Charles Porter would be the chairperson.
Sure.
Okay.
Dave, unless of course you'd like to be
Yeah, you can
nominated for
step
the
in,
Yeah,
Dave.
recorder.
why don't you? Yeah, that'd be excellent.
We can nominate you for a recorder.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I'm going to start this off. Is there any other nominations for the position of chair? Then I would, if not hearing any, I would ask for a motion to close the nominations.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have, so I have Commissioner Woznicki has nominated Mr. Porter, and Alderman Hassan has seconded that motion. All of those in favor of Mr. Porter becoming,
Actually, Mr. Johnson made the motion.
No, he made the motion to close the nominations. And I didn't write that down. It doesn't fit into my notes. But all of those in favor of that position, say aye. All righty. Mr. Porter, would you like to take over for the next step?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I will accept the nomination.
Okay. All right. And then you would also accept, with the nomination, you'll accept the nomination. Then, so all of those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then that will move forward. Do you want to handle the board recorder position?
Me?
You're now the chairman.
What are we gonna?
You can do it from there for tonight, if you
All right.
wish.
Well, all right. We're looking for nominations for
Recorder.
board recorder. Do I hear any nominations?
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any other nominations for board recorder?
I move that we close the nominations.
Okay. Hearing no other names for nomination for board recorder, Becky, do you accept the nomination for board recorder?
I'll accept the nomination for board recorder.
Thank you. I don't think we need a motion, but we can vote on. Are we all in favor of?
You just ask if they're all in favor.
Are we all in favor of Becky Speck?
As
for,
prize. Ayes? Aye.
Ayes.
Aye.
Okay.
Any negatives?
Any negatives? The ayes have it.
There we go.
Okay. Congratulations. You're board recorder.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to both of you. You're both sitting there for right now, and we're good?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, then you can continue.
Oh,
You're
boy.
doing well.
All right. This is like trial by fire. The next item is under
Just wanna jump
unfinished.
quick by the end of the meeting.
No, I'll try not to. Item 4C, traffic signals at South Preserve Way and West 51st Street. Draft.
Memorandum of understanding.
Okay, that's what that means.
Yes.
With Franklin Public Schools. Is this yours, Glenn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So we briefly introduced this item last month, and I included the draft memorandum of understanding in your packet. At your table tonight is actually a minutes from a meeting that Tyler and I had with the consultant yesterday, who's actually designing the signal. They're under contract. Ari Smith is doing the design of the signals for us. So what I thought we would do tonight, I thought I'd walk you through my suggested changes for the MOU, and then we can talk about what's in the. Actually, I take that back. Let's start with the minutes from yesterday's meeting, and then we'll back up and actually walk through the MOU. I'll tell you what my suggested changes are, and I'll be open to any other suggested changes, and then I will take this to the Common Council as your recommendation for an amended MOU. So, when you look at the again, this is the sheet that you saw at your desk tonight. Their scope of work, traffic counts. So they have done traffic counts out there, just to let you know, and they actually video recorded it. So I told them if he had any good shots of after school the behavior that I witnessed in person last year, let me know. We can actually go back and watch that. But that was recorded. They did. Ari Smith did request a Digger's Hotline ticket for marking all the utilities. So all utility companies are marked except for the fiber utility serving the high school. So that's actually the school and the city have actually joined together for a fiber loop, and apparently that was one that was not marked. So we're going to have to get mean with ourselves and figure out why we didn't mark that. But the idea is that we want to allow signals in a place that minimizes or actually does not require any relocation of utilities. As you know, DOT will often design projects based on where they would like to put poles, and if we happen to be in the way, we have to beg and plead for them to relocate theirs, but more often than not, we have to relocate our infrastructure at our expense. So the idea is here we're trying to do this as inexpensively as possible, so that's why that's important. The traffic signal installation, they're looking at a signal. Again, this is least expensive signal that we can put in this intersection. We'd like to use video camera detection. So, reason why that's important is that prohibits or prevents the need to actually saw cut the pavement and install the loop. So it's actually a much cheaper option to do that, which is kind of nice because you can calibrate them a lot easier than you can loops and so forth. Emergency vehicle preemption. This is an additional expense, but we do require, or not require, we have been adding these to all of the state and county signals in Franklin. So police and fire have been requesting that we put the EVPs in. So we're going to just put that in from the get-go in this project. And then lighting. So there is some lighting on both sides. There's a lighting, I believe, is owned by the school. You can see here. Here's you see a lighting here, which I believe is far enough back it should be a school. Do you know if that's one that we rent from We Energies? But it is far back. It is behind the right-of-way line, so I would suspect the school is paying for that. But when you look across the road, there is also these decorative lights on Preserve Way. Those are not owned by the city. I believe those are We Energy lights. But I can tell you that I've received multiple complaints since I've been here over 9 years about this intersection needing more light. So the thought is we're just going to leave the lights the way it is. This one actually acts as a sign. I think if we were to take it down, we'd probably get some complaints from the neighborhood. But these signals will have a light in the intersection, so that should really help out the complaints that we've been hearing that there's not enough light when kids are trying to cross in the dark before and after school. Let's see, where was I? So the school's zone assembly signs, high visibility crosswalks. They're recommending that we use we call them piano key crosswalk markings for all 4 legs at Preserve Way and at North High School driveway. So let me switch to the view. So what he's saying, we would put the zebra stripes here, piano keys here, 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 and here, and then also put it up here for this crosswalk here. School zone assembly signs. Ari Smith would review the MUTCD and provide options for sign messaging on school speed limit. I had a concern about, there's language in the MOU about changing the signage from when children are present to when flashing. I had a concern because I know that sometimes we have had issues with those operationals. I understand it may be better, but again, I would sure hate for a kid to get hit because of equipment malfunction. I would rather them, anytime a kid is there, it requires you to slow down. That's not to say the kid can't hit the button and have the flashing light to warn drivers, which would be nice. It's kind of additional, I won't say insurance situation, which is good. But if you think about the reverse, if there is no flashing light and a kid's there, we don't want a kid to get hit that way. So that always allows a kid to hit the button, assuming it's operational and can flash additional messaging to the drivers. But I think that's better than the reverse, where or the kid doesn't hit the button. Let's say the kid just doesn't hit the button. You want to make sure that their driver's always responsible for slowing down should the kid be there. So new flashing beacon school limit assembly shall be installed northbound, north of Forest Hill and south of South Drexel. So in essence, what we have is a school zone. So the thought is the school zone is basically going to be from this location here. So as you're southbound, you're going to run into a school zone. That school zone will stay active until you actually pass the school. Likewise, coming from this direction, we'll probably have a school zone somewhere in here to allow the northbound motorists that there is a school zone, and they would be required to be in the school zone the entire way. So the MOU talks about having 4 markings on the pavement. After talking with Ari Smith, really, we only have 2 markings on the pavement. So you'd have a school zone from the south, school zone from the north. In addition, there's also be signage telling the drivers when they're out of the school zone. So if you're northbound, you would see the signage, you would see the striping or the school printed in the pavement. But then once you completely past the school, there'd be a sign saying, you're done with the school zone. So that's how that works. And again, R.A. Smith would review the MUTCD school science sequence and modify it for compliance. They also verify with TAPCO. TAPCO is the company that we tend to buy most of our equipment and signage from. That the flashing beacon can manually be turned off or on in addition to the regularly scheduled events. So the thought is, we're going to set this up, and it's going to be somewhat complicated. On Thursdays, they get out earlier than other days. So how do you program that? I assume that's programmable. But there's also a situation where, say there's a ball game on a Friday night. You want someone to be able to go out there and turn all the signals on and so forth. If there's a big PTA function or whatever, you can activate the signals and the flashers at non-scheduled times. So we want to make sure that we can do that. There are control panels, and I don't know the specifics on how this one would work. Again, we're looking for the least expensive way to do this. And having said that, I can't say I'm up on the latest technology because we just don't have any other signals in the city. So I tend to ignore those talks and attend other talks when I go to conferences because it really doesn't apply to us. We talked about the school pavement markings, traffic signal timings. So they're going to come up with a recommended way. So, what's appropriate? Is it 45 seconds? Is it 1 minute? Those kinds of things. They're going to come up with when it does turn green for the school, what's appropriate. They're going to make some assumptions on that. Electrical service application. They will actually prepare the We Energy service application. So there's some discussion in the MOU about solar installation. I asked R.A. Smith, that's really not a thing. So there are solar powered beacon flashes, those rapid beacon flashing things that you see. They do have those on solar panels, but actually to run a signal, that's not a thing that would, at least not in 2023. So we will have to have a service drop. There will be a meter, and there will be a monthly electric charge for this. Schedule, they're hoping to get the preliminary plans done by the middle of January and have the final plans in February. So the idea is we can go ahead and bid this out, and it will get constructed when it gets constructed. The electrical panels, the control panels, I've been told most projects there's like an 8 to 10 month lead time, just the supply chain issues that are going on right now. Even if the contractor could start digging when the frost leaves, the equipment's just not available, given everything else that's going on. R.A. Smith would also, on the backside, R.A. Smith would also notify TAPCO of our interest in maintaining a service contract. So again, we don't maintain signals. We do have a bucket truck, and we can do some things out there. I would imagine we could probably figure out how to change light bulbs and so forth, but reprogramming or some of those kinds of things that you sometimes have to call out an expert on who knows the wiring or redo the panels, those kinds of things. They do happen. When asked how often that happens, I'm not sure. A signal, aside from changing the light bulb and some of those kinds of things, can probably go 10 years without being touched. But I'm going to ask for, how much, say, twice a year, and so we'll tell the school what that is, and they can put that in their budget. If we ever need to call a service technician out to do something, we have that ability, and we know that we can invoice the school, and the school will pay for it. We did ask to salvage pedestrian blinker signs, so those are obviously our signs. We'll take those back. And there was a discussion on the location of the crossing at the North High School driveway, and if it is in the best spot. Initial thought is that it is in the best spot based on the misalignment of the high school driveway and the Highland Drive, and they're going to look a little bit closer at that. So just to point that out, just weird. You have a Highland coming out here, you take a jog over, and this is the in and out for the school driveway, and we have the crossing here. So the thought was that probably isn't a good spot because is in a good spot, because if cars are coming in and out, if they do a right-hand turn, they won't conflict with pedestrians. Likewise, you can have a lot of traffic, southbound traffic, making the turn into the parking lot, and again, not have a conflict with the pedestrians. So that may be in the best spot, but they're going to think a little bit harder about that. So that's our minutes from yesterday. Just to want to keep you abreast of the discussion that went on. When you look in your packet at the MOU, I didn't really have any comments until you get down into the nail. Therefore, it is hereby agreed. Number 2, I agree with. The city shall be responsible for the design, materials, procurement, construction, management of the work of the road segment as is normal and customary for city roads and right-of-way. Again, this is our right-of-way. We are responsible. Should something happen, we should take the lead on that. Number 3, the scope of work is depicted graphically in Exhibit A, attached to but is itemized more particularly as follows. So there is no Exhibit A yet. We will create that, but I'm basically going to take this memo that we just talked about and regurgitate that into what we intend to include in this project. High visibility crosswalk, again, we'll reference what's in here. And so, again, B, C, and D we cover with the memo. Number 4 is really just a cost split. That's for Common Council to decide.
Any
Again,
idea of this cost split?
so in the beginning, when I talked to 2 firms on what the cost could be, it was $250,000 to $300,000. So I'm going to put $300,000 as the estimate now. We will, but that included engineering also. So once the design is complete in January, we should have at least a budget estimate of what we think the project will cost.
Okay.
But at the end of 4, it says that to satisfy the cost share agreement, the city will submit an invoice to the school district after completion of the work, which the school district shall promptly pay. I'm going to question for the city attorney, what if the school doesn't promptly pay, not only for this but the ongoing maintenance. So, unlike if I assess your property, I can put it on the tax bill. Schools don't pay taxes. So, how does the city enforce payment in the future for this or the ongoing maintenance? Number 5, upon mutual agreement, city and school district administrative staff shall add measures, I would scratch upon mutual agreement, and I would scratch and school district administrative staff. So this would read, city may add measures to the above scope of work and reserve the right to implement additional measures without formal agreement to this MOU, as long as the measurements do not exceed the liability limitations outlined in the cost share agreement. So that means we have every right to add things to whatever, but I don't want the school to be able to add bells and whistles or go out and put signs up or something like that. Again, this is our right of way. I know enough about traffic engineering to say I at least know more than what the school folks do, or at least we have consultants that are the experts. So I think we have a better capability than the school, but regardless, it's our right of way, and that's what we're responsible for. Number 6. The school district is solely responsible for any necessary maintenance regarding the work. I would reword that to say the school district is financially responsible, so scratch solely and put financially, for any necessary maintenance and replacement. Remember that this probably won't last forever, this traffic signal. Someday it will have to be probably gutted and replaced, newer, so we want to make sure the school's on the hook when that happens regarding the work. And then also talk about the electric, and then I'll have to mention the electrical service in that sentence also. So there will be an ongoing maintenance or electrical service. And then I would completely scratch that second sentence. The city shall have no responsibility outside of what is outlined in Article 2 unless agreed at a later date and added as an addendum to the MOU. Because I do feel that we're going to, again, we have an obligation. It's in our right of way. Should somebody hit the pole, and we'll do those kinds of things. We can take on that responsibility. We should have that responsibility. I don't want us to come along and say, well, it may be blocking traffic. Well, go find us, go have the school find somebody to drag it off. Well, we do have some responsibility because it's our pole, and so I would have that. Those were all my comments. So I see some of you itching to make a comment.
Or doing any type of repair or replacement if the pole was to be hit?
So the way I would propose it's in here that really it would be us. I'm going to read between the lines. It would be us to look at the situation and decide whether it's something we can do, like change a light bulb or maybe we know how to reprogram or something. If it's beyond our skill level or our comfort level, we call the consultant, and it's our call when we call the consultant to come out and the technician to come look at it. Is that your answer?
Not quite.
Okay.
So if the stoplight, the stoplight, get hit to a point where it's been damaged and needs full replacement, or any portion thereof needs replacement, who's financially on the hook to pay for those repairs?
The school.
The school will be?
Yeah. The number 6, the school district is financially responsible for any necessary maintenance, replacement, and ongoing electrical service needs for that. So they would be on the hook for maintenance and replacement. I would put replacement in there.
All right. Sort of on her question, though, let's say I drive down the road and I clobber the pole. Wouldn't my car insurance be charged for the replacement of the...
If we know who you are, sometimes people hit things and leave and we can't find you. But if we know who you are, yes, we do turn things into the insurance. And more often than not, they pay for a complete new pole and so forth. So,
But with video detection for controlling the lights, would there be any kind of recording?
no,
It would just be for detection purposes?
it's only for detection purposes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is there any need to have a delineation between replacement that is caused by a damage caused by an accident to the pole, and replacement to be caused by, we need to readdress the technology's changed, etc., and that this is it's run its life, and we need to make some adjustments. Is there any delineation for that?
My opinion is no. You just still make them responsible, but we would still go through the process. Just because I know who hit it, and I can find out who hit it, and I can send you a bill or your insurance bill.
Well,
They may
I'm
not have
actually
insurance.
going farther than that. I'm saying, okay, that's good for that side. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
My question is more on the side of, we're 25 years down the road, and the light has to be changed. Maybe we've decided to put a light at the other end at Highlands Drive and rearrange all the connections over there. And the result of that is to change this at the same time. Is that a separate MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that incorporates all of that? Is there some sort of design change like that that's got to occur because of the future?
I never forecast what will or won't happen in the future.
That's what I'm trying to ask.
A future common council may say that we're doing it at the city's expense.
Okay.
I mean, that's a possibility, but again, I would maybe underline that for any necessary
Okay.
things that happen.
Thank you.
Maybe I can massage that sentence to really indicate that it's everything we have the ability to invoice them for.
Okay.
Any and all, or something like that. And or all. Any other thoughts or comments on the proposed changes to the MOU?
From my point of view, that sounds pretty good. We've never, as far as I know, we've never voted on this MOU to begin with, and then, so I don't think we need to vote on the changes. Just that we've seen so it's just really informational.
This MOU was brought to me as a result of a meeting between some city officials and school officials. So before I take it to Common Council for their consideration, I bring it to you as a recommendation to Common Council. We would recommend an MOU to look something like this. Yeah.
So then I would make a motion to recommend the MOU with the changes that this engineer Morrow has made this evening and delineated for us this evening, and recommend that to City Council for consideration.
And there's one note I forgot to add.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. And then also, I would put somewhere a clause that the city may program and operate the signal. So even though it's in our right-of-way and we're responsible for all the maintenance, I would allow them to program it. So, for example, again, the PTA event on a Tuesday night, we don't want to have to go out and keep, maintaining this, reprogramming it when needed. So I would allow them the authority to go out and reprogram this as functioning. So everyone's is clear. The intent is to see this as a yellow flashing light all day, except when it's needed to act as a stoplight, and then it would function as a stoplight. So like before school, after school, and for special events. Sorry, I didn't.
I'll amend my motion to include that. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have a motion by Mr. Webster. Is there a second to that motion?
Sure.
Okay, motion's been seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? And hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
Tyler, hit your button.
Hit your button.
Mike.
Thank you.
Then I'm fumbling through this a little bit. Next item is new business, 5A, right-of-way permits. I'm thinking that's your presentation again, or
This would be Mr. Biden.
Yep, I'll take it.
okay.
Excuse me. So this was a topic that was discussed actually early in 2022. Feels a lot more recent than that, but time has been flying by. So in 2022, February, we had an ordinance to update our right-of-way permit requirements. So the main changes were we added insurance requirements and some surety, and then updated our permit fees to catch up with today's times. One thing that we discussed at the time, but we didn't follow through with it because we needed to do a little bit more research, was additional fees for cutting into roads that were recently paved based on age. So a lot of municipalities use something called a degradation fee. So essentially they calculate a fee for determining how much that road depreciates based on an excavation from a utility contractor or private entity, and what that depreciation value would be if they did versus didn't cut into the road. So we looked at a couple methods to add a degradation fee, and the League of Wisconsin Municipalities has a kind of a template that they provided, but it's pretty complicated. It requires a lot of numbers to be upkept and updated year over year. So another one that we found that is a little bit more simplistic, and it kind of gives us what we were looking for, is it's on the second page of the memo, and it's this degradation fee formula. It's the P times A over 100 times the base rate. So essentially, the P is a multiplier based on the pavement age. So a newer pavement would have a higher multiplier, an older pavement would have a much lower multiplier. The base rate would be 1,000, and then the A is the area of excavation in square feet, and it would kind of be compared up against a minimum 100 square foot charge. So in that section on the second page, there are some example costs to give you kind of an idea of what the fees would be for a newer road, kind of a middle-aged road, and then an older road. There's a lot of municipalities that use this, Brookfield, Madison, Kenosha, Wisconsin Rapids. This formula, the Chicago DOT actually uses this formula. It's a little bit different than the one the league recommended. I spoke with City of Greenfield. They have this degradation fee in their code as well, but they have kind of strayed away from it a little bit. They have a new policy that they kind of implement that's not in their code, where if a contractor comes and does a road cut in a road that's been paved in the last 10 years, they make them do a full reconstruct of that section, basically. So from pavement edge to pavement edge. That's probably a little bit more extreme than what we would want. And Greenfield is a little bit different scenario. They have a lot of concrete pavement, whereas we don't. We have mostly asphalt. So what we would be looking to do is add this degradation fee in. What we've noticed over the years is as utility, primarily probably telecommunications infrastructure grows, a lot of these contractors, when they come in for right-of-way permits, they want to cut into the road. And a lot of it's, they need to pothole to check for existing utilities. So a lot of stuff, as much as we don't want them to cut into the road, we'd rather have them cut into the road, verify where the gas main is, or verify where an electric line is, or our water or sewer. We'd rather have them do that than hit that and cause major damage. So we'd like to move towards what a lot of municipalities have with this degradation fee. So we'd have our typical administrative fee for right-of-way permits, which would come to about $100 or $200 for each permit generally. We have the refundable fee, which is like our surety, and then we would have this degradation fee. So I guess with that, we're kind of just looking to see if the board had any questions, or if they want to discuss this at all. And if the board desires, we'd like to get a recommendation to council to amend the ordinance 222-4 to include this degradation fee.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've heard the presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Webster.
When this board years ago looked at, I'm comparing this fee to what this board did from a city perspective when the city had to go in and replace, say, a culvert pipe, for instance, and my recollection was that the city made, in that particular case, for instance, and the big question then came, it was about concrete. If they had a concrete approach on a drive and we had to replace a culvert across a drive, for instance, we said that we would replace the concrete with asphalt, and that's what we were going to do. Okay, so my question kind of comes from there a little bit, in that is there a difference in the base rate between what would be done for pavement asphalt versus concrete? And should there be?
Well, there's not in this formula. I would say probably not. There's concrete. It's a little bit easier because when you're working in concrete, you have already jointed panels of concrete. So it gives you pretty much clean lines that you're going to have to cut to. And a lot of times with asphalt, if you have to take a little bit bigger patch, because if you don't, those edges that maybe you tried to save break off, whereas concrete, it's not going to be as prone to do that. And I just think, I would probably guess that 95% of our roads are asphalt, and I don't think the concrete ones we have are going to be there much longer. I think those will be asphalt over the next probably 10 years once we get to them. That I don't really think the concrete will be much of a question anymore.
Okay, thank you.
So what are you looking for from us? A motion to?
Yeah, it would be a recommendation to council to that we would use to bring this as an amendment to the ordinance, to add this into the ordinance for right-of-way permits.
Okay.
I'll
Please correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that this fee that's being collected is going to help offset any costs that we're going to see for having that road cut into, correct?
Yeah, so it would be the best way we can calculate a cost that we see attributed to us having to go out there maybe 5 years sooner than we would have wanted to had the road not been cut into.
So are these fees going to be collected and maintained in a separate account that will go back to the roads program?
It's a good point. We could have to see what other ordinances have ever dictated that, but it would be nice to say whatever fees collected would be added to it. I'm not sure it matters because if say they're going to give us $1 million and we collect $100,000 with this, they'll probably still just give us $1 million. They just have a funding source to help offset the general fund. So
Right.
it would be nice to make it additive to it, but I can't tie the common council's hand on that where it gets spent.
Because if the whole point is to benefit the roads in the area because we're requiring this work to be done and it just gets eaten away by another program, what's the point of collecting the fees?
Well, it's a revenue for the city. So the more revenues the cities collect, the more revenues they could potentially spend on roads. But it's a budget discussion each year. So I think that'd be a good budget discussion where, we say we collected $100,000 in, fees last year. We're proposing 2.5 million. So let's go 2.6 million or something like that.
I think that's what we would look to do. We'd look to tabulate all the costs that we get from this on an annual basis and include it in our budget request each year, at the very least.
Kevin and I have had discussions on, the knockdown lights. It'd be nice if we could just pull that in and add to it. And we can make the case, say, hey, we've had a lot of lights knocked down this year. We want to use that money to buy more lights. But council could say no. It's all budget discussion at every meeting.
Well, I've got a question. What about engineering and inspection? I mean, is there an engineering fee for your time or your assistant's time to review these permit applications?
I would suggest to you that we account for that time already in just a normal permit.
Yeah, that's what the $100 base fee, and then there's another $100 for basically the first foot of work you do. So yeah, that generally accounts for our permit technicians' time to review and process and take care of the permits in that regard. Yeah.
And then once the job is completed, somebody's going to go out and inspect it to make sure it's satisfactory, correct?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, in general, I think for any road cut, we usually either engineering staff or engineering and DPW staff will kind of give the contractors guidance on where we want the saw cuts made and their limits of excavation, kind of.
Just make sure I'm clear on this. So, but we already have a road cut permit that covers those kinds of issues. This is really a penalty, if you will, if you happen to be cutting a newer road.
okay.
So this is additional fee.
Well, this
Top
would be for any road, but if you're talking a road that's over 10 years, the fee's going to be pretty nominal. It's a much higher priority on newer roads, though, and it gives a lot higher, I guess, precedent to that.
Okay, are there any other questions? Would somebody like to make a...
I have one more question.
Time's up. Go ahead, go ahead.
You have that power now, Chuck.
You can do that.
I know I can, but I'm not gonna, I'm just teasing.
Is there a time when, we talk about this age of a street, a life of a life of a road, a life of a paved road being 30, 35 years-ish? Is there a time when the pavement multiplier might go to zero if we're at 25 years and we're going to be in the replacement anyway? I mean, I'm just trying to...
Yeah, 10 years.
I mean, I think we would include, so some of the things we would probably include in the ordinance is, the city and its contractors wouldn't have to pay a degradation fee. And
Well,
that,
I'm not, but even a utility
Sure.
person
And-
comes in and they come in on a road that your Pazer is rating at a 2.
yeah.
And anything they do is going to make it better than what it is now.
So I think
when
we'd
they
have,
get done.
yeah, we would have some exceptions. I think one would be city or its contractors. Another would be if the contractor would elect, instead of paying this degradation fee, if they want to basically reconstruct, the full width of the pavement.
That's
then
no, that's
I
not
know
what
what
I'm
I know what
asking.
you're getting at. And then we could make a case by case basis where if the road is already in poor enough condition that maybe we don't, maybe we just waive the fee. I would say that even in bad roads, they may do a patch and the patch looks nice, but the next year DPW has to go out there and crack seal around
That's
it.
true.
So there is still maintenance and ongoing costs and extra costs to the city because they made a road cut.
I would hope that that there would be some consideration for, like I said, roads that are in bad shape that are going to be on our Pazer program to be replaced, say within the next 2 years. That this fee, could be, removed because replaced as is, but the contract would still be to replace as is and make drivable. But if it's going to be replaced within a year or two anyway, I'm just asking.
May I suggest that that the permittee would have the right to ask for a waiver based on the condition of the road, and we would judge it on a case by case basis. So if the road is completely alligatored and we anticipate if it's a rating 3 or something like that, then and we know that they're replacing enough to really, as you say, improve the road, we could waive it for those kinds of situations. But again, a case by case, not necessarily based on age.
Okay, I'm just thinking of ideas, thoughts. Thanks.
Good.
I would also say we have so many roads that are rated 3s in the city. I don't know if I want to put a waiver on that.
All right, so I guess we're looking for a motion to bring this, to allow you to bring this,
Make a recommendation to Common Council to adopt an ordinance that reflects this.
right. So would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion with a friendly amendment to include a
Waiver for
more to get
The budget.
funding
Oh.
back to the roads program.
Okay, we've got a motion with a friendly amendment. Do we want to second, can we do the whole package? Just get a second for the whole thing? Yeah, somebody like to second that? Okay, thank you. So it's been, motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it, and then that passes, and we take that recommendation to the Common Council. All right, the next item is 5B, evaluation for modified signage near schools. Southwood Glen, Robin Hood, but it should be Robin Wood, right?
Robin Wood.
Yeah, I can even read.
That's good.
Country Dale, Pleasant View, and Forest Park Middle School.
All right. So most of these situations have been to your board to be looked at over the past year and a half or so. So the thought was we were going to make some changes for the school year and try it out and see how it worked. So I have been around to all these schools, or the administrator for the Franklin schools, and in essence asked them how it's going, get their comments. I also, as witnessed in the what's in your packet, I sent an email out to the aldermen, asked if they had any comments pro or con. So the only comment I received was around Southwood Glen. Let's start there. So this one, we have talked in the past a lot about this intersection between Hilltop Drive and the intersection of Southwood Glen. So you don't know where we are. We're at 35th Street, south of Putes, north of Ryan Road. There's a elementary school here, Southwood Glen. We had a lot of discussion on this intersection, 3 or 4 years ago, about there was parents that basically line up to pick. They're supposed to pick up their kids over on this side of the school, but parents ignored the memo and intend to really bottle up this intersection here. It was causing a lot of issues. So we at the time, we actually made no parking zones. I think we went from this driveway to this driveway, no parking. Since then, or actually what we tried based on the police request, we actually extended the no parking basically from this intersection, and I think we went up past this basically somewhere up in here. So I talked to the principal. Her comment was she got a lot of complaints last year. This year she hasn't had any complaints regarding this issue. So that sounds good. I talked to the alderwoman of the district, and she did have the only thing she has heard from citizens were when the signs first went up, passerbys, hey, what's going on? Because they weren't the temporary signs that we typically put up, but they looked more permanent. They are permanent. And so I told her at the time that we were just trying these out as a trial. They haven't been adopted in the city code, but we posted it, and so they are effective, but to get them permanent, we need to take that to Common Council. So having said that, I would recommend, do you want to take these one by one, or do you want to go through the bunch and then talk about them all at once?
I think talk about them all at once.
Okay. So I'm suggesting that we make this as posted signage. I'll make the Common Council, I'll make the ordinance reflect, I'll actually go out and measure the distances that these signs are put up in both directions, and we'll make that the permanent per the ordinance. One that you have not talked about, and I came very close to bringing it to you, is over at Countrydale School. So Countrydale is over on North Cape, St. Martin's. Right next to Countrydale, predates Countrydale, there's actually a bar, if you know Romy's, and some businesses. And we were getting a lot of complaints from the patrons at the bar and the owner of the bar, and also the owner of the business, was that it's almost impossible to get out of their parking lots as parents are waiting to pick up their kids after school. And so some parents start lining up, I forget what, it's like almost an hour before school lets out. Like some grandparents, apparently that's their thing every day, and they get first in line. I forget how many minutes before school lets out they actually open this gate, so then the queue of traffic actually gets to enter into the lot. And they're obviously first to pick up the kids, but the rest of it stacks up pretty quickly. One time I was out watching it. I can tell you that it's our sidewalk. I think there was traffic backed up to here. So basically it backs up all the way around. So how we solve that without coming to you, talk to the police department, and there's a picture on the back of your packet. Do not stop or park within 4 feet of entrances to an alley, private road, or driveway, Wisconsin statute 34653. So talking with the police chief and some of the police officers about how to handle this, I was going to basically write a local ordinance, and we realized that the state has an ordinance that you're not allowed to block a driveway. So, but however, the police department did not feel that they were suitable to write a ticket unless people were so warned. So we started putting these signs up around some of the schools, and that seemed to solve it. So people can still queue on St. Martin's and North Cape, but they could get a ticket if they're blocking a drive, so forth, that happens. So I don't know if they've had to use that yet, but at least that tool is there, and if nothing else, it's a visual reminder for people that they're allowed to queue along the road, but they have to leave space for people to get in and out. The only thing I think that still we're having trouble with, and quite honestly, it doesn't bother me. You see, here's Romy's. Notice that it's fading, but people were never intended to park here. This is really a bad situation. I remember when we redid North Cape with the county, or when the county redid North Cape, we had a long discussion about just curbing this off and making this no parking. Political wills what they were. We couldn't do that. So if you go out there, I'm actually surprised this aerial doesn't pick this up, but if you go out, the time I was out there, this is basically a whole row of cars parked this way, and you'll see cars parked here. If you're parking there, that's almost your own fault for getting blocked, in my opinion. So I would suggest that's not a big issue. But if you were to say, parked right here, where this this is an obvious pathway for people to get in and out of the parking lot. Here's a driveway, people get in and out. If you're blocking those, you are setting yourself up for a ticket. Should the policeman come and have a discussion, whatever, you at least have to move, if not give a ticket for that. So I would suggest to you that that putting these signs up has been posted. I've not received any complaints. Again, I've talked to the school officials and I've talked to the alder or sent emails out to the aldermen and have not heard any negative impact of that. So I think, knock on wood, we've solved that issue, or partially solved that issue. The others, let's see, the next school is Pleasant View. Pleasant View. So Pleasant View, you come to Rawson, turn south on 51st Street. Minnesota's here. And so this is the new road, Marquette, that we extended. We finished it up last year or year before. And so Marquette has been nice because it really alleviated a lot of the issues on 49th that was really causing problems with parents parking along in a very small, skinny road, causing problems. So they can now queue on Marquette. I did talk to the principal at Pleasant View. She has not heard any issues this year. Again, last year, all kinds of issues. We were getting complaints. And most of the complaints were basically along 49th. So even though people were queuing along Marquette, which is where we intended them to, they were also queuing on 49th Street and blocking some of these driveways for some of these homes. So the sign you see actually on the back is, again, what we posted. So without posting any more no parking areas, we just basically posted a sign and reminded them that it's against the state statute to block a driveway. That seems to have fixed it. So I think we can solve this. This won't take any ordinances. It was a fix there. Robinwood. So Robinwood is, if you come out Drexel, turns into Church Street, turns south on Church Street. Robinwood is sitting here. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. Sorry. So if you recall, the issues we were having last year is basically this crosswalk was the real concern. Since then, what we've done, we've changed how people come in and out. So they come in here. If you're dropping your kid off, you come in here and leave out this way is the intention. Buses can still come in this way and come around because they have their doors on this side. And they have also added some temporary, I say temporary, they're movable, stop for people in the crosswalk signs, one of those, and I'm sure you've seen them around, but they have them on little weighted bottoms, and they keep them out there in the morning. I think they keep them there during the day. They take them in at night, and they put them away actually on the weekends. We'll see what happens when the snow starts flying. They understand that they probably won't be able to put those out there because of snowplow issues, but they are temporary, and they say it's just working great. I talked to the principal, not a bit of problem. There's some negative comments on Facebook, but I think by and large, the principal said most everyone seems to like the new arrangement. The kids feel much safer and so forth. So, again, knock on wood, I think we might have fixed that one. So the nice thing is, again, we fixed it without having to make any changes to the ordinance or make to the municipal code. And then last one, Forest Park Middle School. So City Hall's on Drexel, Forest Hill. This one will take an ordinance fix, but we had parents lining up along the edge here. So before, just a little history here, before they actually built a new school and they had athletic fields here, parents were notoriously bad about wanting to park in a parking lot and walk across to see their kids play. So they would park in the road, and it was really creating congestion every Saturday or whenever it was. So we've we had that kind of issue. It was really nice when they got rid of the athletic fields and moved the athletic fields back in here. But so the new school didn't require that. So I thought that was great. But then what's happening is parents are lining up along Forest Hill to pick up their kids after school, so the kid can walk out and hop in their car right there on Forest Hill. We put up a plethora of temporary no parking signs if you've been by there, and but it seems to be working. I again, just my observation. I asked I left let me say this. I left a message for the person at the administration building, asking them the question: how is it working? No response. So I assume no answer is a good answer. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that I do have a concern. So we post no parking here, which I think is warranted and good idea. If you did not know, the school has actually purchased the old nursery, and they plan to turn that into athletic fields. Tyler, do you remember how many fields they're looking at? But they're talking some soccer fields and some playgrounds and so forth. So there will be a lot of traffic there. My concern is that we're going to have the same thing of what happened over here when these were athletic fields. So I've asked the school, to actually put a nice fence that would keep someone from wanting to park there and just sit on the edge of the road and watch their kid play. But I'm going to suggest to you that in addition to making this no parking, we haven't posted it, but as long as we're at it, just go ahead and post it all the way to the end of this property as no parking. I think that would be appropriate because I can just see everyone lining up cars to park there. So the idea is there's going to be entrance here. There will be a parking lot here. Whether it's enough or not, I don't know. In theory, we size the parking lot accordingly, but I do anticipate people will park there to maybe sit there and watch the kids because they don't want to have to walk from the parking lot to watch the kids play. But I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and post this as no parking also while we're here. Or we could wait till it becomes a problem, then we come back and talk about it. I guess that would be the choice. So in hindsight, the ones that we have to take to Common Council would be around Southwood Glen and Forest Park Middle School, where we're extending the no parking zones. So I would ask for that, but before you do that, I'd like to have a discussion on should we post this section of Forest Hill also now and avoid what the inevitable will happen, or do we wait till it becomes a problem before we post it?
Go ahead, Becky.
Glenn, do you have a good enough understanding of what the proposed plan is on the old nursery and maybe where you said that there's going to be a new parking lot going to be put in there, that you'd be comfortable posting the new signs at this time? Or would it be more beneficial to wait until we get the design, know what the curb cuts are going to be?
So the entrance is about where you see this entrance right here. So in fact, because I was trying to answer a question for the Alderwoman about, how that affects this property, because there's a concern is that, increased traffic is going to affect their ability to get in and out. So my thought is that let's see where it was before to kind of give them an idea where it's at. And it's about right here. So the nice thing is this would only really be an issue. It won't be an issue at night. There shouldn't be kids. There should not be drivers going in and out at night. So the headlights and the windows across the street should not be an issue. But it's really during the day. That's when kids are out playing on the fields. But this would be the main entrance. They would come in. They are extending their admin building. The pickleball courts inside. So some kind of, I think I've heard that. They're going to do something with the extension of this ad building on the backside. And then you have to come in the parking lot. Parking lot is somewhere in here. And then the athletic field, several athletic fields kind of around there. And then there will also be a walkway coming across, so basically get across the wetland.
Do they even consider just maintaining the one main entrance and expanding the existing parking lots there and not adding another entrance where you have lots
So-
of pedestrians possibly going through?
So there's always been an entrance here. I think a lot of people use it, but most of the parking lot was over here. No, they laid it out to really maximize the number of fields that they have. I can't say that we've talked about that, but I think it's obvious that they were trying to maximize the fields in play.
And putting additional parking next to existing parking lots by the school.
Oh, well then you get into. I'll be blunt. People are lazy. They like to park as close as they can to something. If you ask them to expand this parking lot and have people park over here then walk, I think there would be a lot of outcry. I think you will have some people begrudgingly park in this parking lot to walk to this field over here, but.
Well, the sports complex is set up that way. So,
That'd be a good note we can pass on to Plan Commission that we have that concern, and so the Planning Department can add that comment to our observations.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Jonathan?
Well, I was just going to say,
Oh,
there's a.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can you hit your button?
I'm glad you pointed.
Can you hit your button, sir?
Oh,
Which button is?
well, how about?
No, go ahead.
Oh, you wanna go?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
go first.
Oh, I was just talking with Tyler, coming from the Parks and Recreation field. There's just a pile of books on what you need and where they should go for soccer fields and baseball diamonds. And, if the Planning Commission is reviewing this, I mean, it's pretty much state-of-the-art and standards are already available. So I guess. what
Are
I'm
you talking
saying-
about proximity of the parking to the fields?
Yeah.
Okay.
And how many you need for the size of the facility. And we've always called, parking's always an issue.
Right.
Everybody wants to park the front door of the mall, but they'll spend an hour walking around. Same with adult soccer players, or softball players are classic. They want to park at home plate, but they want to play 3 hours of softball.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of methods to the madness on how to design it, to make it work. So, again, Planning Commission might want to just review, and it's all from the National Parks and Recreation Association. People have done master's and PhD theses on parking.
Well, right now, to look at the issue itself, which has to do with the no parking signs on Forest Hill, and to deal with that question, is that what you had talked about, John?
Yeah, I'm gonna. I would think that, to get us onto the topic here, I'm not necessarily. I think the one over on Southwood Glen, I'm absolutely for. I'm always have been a minimalist on intervention from the government on these things until they're needed. So I don't think I would support putting the signage up on Forest Hill Avenue at this point in time because it's just not.
And you're talking east of the.
Yes, yes. I would make a
I'm sorry, west.
secondary comment on your previous comments about the parking that did occur on Forest Hill with the old field before the new school was built, as a lot of times people actually parked on the road because there was no parking essentially left across the front of the roadway coming in to Forest Hill. That was before the school thing was put there. The school building was there, and it wasn't necessarily it was people were too lazy to walk. The only places you had to park was way the heck back at the school, which was way the heck down away. It was so people parked there, and I did it myself.
So I'm told that there was parking generally available here.
No, that is not a true statement in my opinion. As somebody who used that parking, I don't believe that's true. So I would certainly support and to add to the ordinance the Southwood Glen School one. I think this one is one that should be held off at this point in time.
So let me make sure I understand. So Forest Meadows Drive, this is where we have it temporarily parked, and it has alleviated people from parking there and causing
I
problems.
apologize. I would accept that one.
You would
I
accept
would not
this one,
accept the
but you would not accept West.
I
Okay.
would not accept West yet because
Okay.
I would. One, I don't think there's evidence to do it at this point in time, and two, I kind of agree with Mr. Johnson saying that, you know, when government puts up this stuff, I mean, you have to do the diligence. Thank you for the word, to determine if you've got the parking that you need. And I think we fought a lot of parking issues around the high school for years and years and years, and they finally developed enough parking for the parking at the high school. So that's what finally helped us there. So I'm, you know, this. I think there should be a little pushback on that one.
Okay.
All right, well,
Thank you.
then I'm going to throw my comment in real quick. This is kind of a point-counterpoint. I think once people would get used to parking there and then you take that privilege away from them is when you're going to get the pushback. If you never give them the option, like, you know, you put some of these signage out by some of the other schools and you got pushback right away. And now that the people have gotten used to it, they're not complaining anymore. They're complying. I mean, I'm certainly not going to oppose what John is saying, but if people don't ever consider parking on Forest Hill, then it won't be a problem. But once they maybe get used to it, and then we decide 5 years from now, after the development of all these fields, that now we're going to stop them from parking there. That's when I think you're going to get a lot of pushback from the public. Because right now it's not an issue. You can put all the signs along that road you want. It's probably not going to cause anything because nobody's going to want to park there anyway. You know, it's just a thought. So, Becky.
What's the timetable for the development?
Have we seen final plans or just still concept plans?
We've only reviewed it once, so I would guess next year they'd look to begin some sort of construction at some point, but hard to say.
They haven't pulled any permits yet.
The plan is fully approved by the city for the layout and curb cuts.
No, we haven't. I don't believe it's hit any plan commission or anything yet.
Well, if we're going to put this to a motion, what, John's not in favor of the additional, no parking signs. Is that something, Glenn, that you have a strong feeling about or not particularly?
Not that I have a strong feeling, but I'll bet you $20 that if we don't put no parking there, we'll be talking about this another year and a half. And I can tell you that the residents across the street are already really kind of antsy the fact that they're going to have this facility there that hasn't been there in the past. And whether parking's an issue or not, if people are parking there, that will be mentioned. I can guarantee. So if they're not there, that gives them one less thing to be concerned with when they call me. I'll guarantee you're going to hear complaints if we allow parking there.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to be unbiased, but I do think there's a lot of weight in what you just said, that if you allow people something and then take it away, they tend to get more mad than if you just, you can anticipate it and, cut it off at the pass. So I do appreciate what you're saying, John. But
As do I. I'm not trying to oppose it. I'm just trying to think a little further out. And I think once the public does potentially get used to putting something there and then you tell them they can't, you're going to get, 10 times more pushback. And right now it's not hurting anybody. To put a sign up there right now is really not going to create any conflict.
And we have, case study, when the fields were over here, that was, I understand every Saturday, I mean, it was just complaints because it was basically couldn't make it so you could barely pass another car coming the other direction because cars were sticking out in the road. If people tried to park over in this area, again, you're going to have the same thing that had happened over there. So it's not that we don't. Let's see. It's not that we're going completely on speculation. We do have a case study that's just right next door. What happened?
So,
Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry.
okay, so let me rethink this and restate this and kind of put this. I'm still not necessarily in favor of that, but I guess, can you zoom out just a little bit for a second? If you're making the comment to make no parking from what would be Four Oaks Drive to the end of the school area there on Forest Hill, so from Four Oaks Drive to the end of the school area, I guess I could maybe see the argument for that being that is all school property across that front. That would be an argument I think I could accept, since that is all school property.
I'd also like to point out this timetable too. By
Yeah.
the time this actually gets approved, it's one thing if it was 5 years out, but since Glenn stated that we're about a year out from having it done, by the time it gets posted, by the time it gets approved, we're not looking at another year. By the time this is in place, it's going to be a couple months.
So the woods area there to the east of so it would be to the east there of the school.
So it would.
Is the woods area, that's part of the school too, isn't it? Isn't that school property too?
Yeah, here's the end of the school property.
That's the end of the school property.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no, there is. What I would suggest is we have no parking, and I'll make the measurements, but basically it's be from the school property from there all the way to Forest Meadows Drive, and then up for discussion. Obviously, there should be no parking here because there's really no room for that. That's the turn lane.
Mm-hmm.
But up for discussion, I think, is from this point here over to the end of the school property at whatever road that is, Four Oaks.
I think that was Four Oaks. Yeah.
Four Oaks, yeah. So, which also coincides with we've got a sidewalk there for safety, which helps, and you would hate for somebody to partially block that.
For whatever it's worth, in the school district submittal, they did include no parking signs in that. So their preference is to have no parking in that stretch of Forest Hill as well.
Thank you.
Becky?
I'd like to make a motion to implement the no parking as recommended by the city engineer.
So we're talking completely across the school property, and we're talking the expansion of
Correct.
Southwood Glen. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion. Would anybody like to second that motion? Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. So that's on the whole thing, right? That's on B, the whole, all right.
I don't think any of the others require council action.
Okay.
Obviously, if you object to something I did, then
Mhm.
we'll talk about that. So.
I don't. All right, the next thing we've got here is scheduling the next meeting. I do not have a calendar in front of me. When are we looking at the second Tuesday? January 9th at 6 o'clock. Thank you very much. Yep. And then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Actually, that's
Oh.
the schedule. Just to let you know, so in case you come by City Hall, we are changing City Hall hours as of January 1st, or I guess January 2nd, 3rd, whatever the first day of the year is. Right now, we're 8:30 to 5, and we're going from 8 to 4:30. So if you should decide, not that I get to leave at 4:30, but but that will be the new City Hall official hours.
But that won't affect our meeting
No.
time. Okay. Well, it's 7 6:40 PM. I would like to accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Seconded. And we're adjourned. Thank you very much.